Breaking news tonight, a gorgeous young Myrtle Beach co-ed, just 23 years old, found dead under an overpass, her car still running. What happened to Amber? Good evening, I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
A young South Carolina woman runs errands on her way to work. She stops to pay her cable bill, gets gas, but never makes it to work.
She's absolutely stunning and was just days away from graduating from college. What happened to Amber? This is how it all starts. Listen.
The Myrtle Beach area of South Carolina gets very busy on the weekends, and at around 4:30 p.m. on a Friday, a call comes in to 911. The caller says there appears to be an injured person outside of a car on Old Sanders Road under the Robert Edge Parkway overpass in North Myrtle Beach. Officers arrive quickly and find the woman lying next to her still running car and no witnesses. The woman has a cell phone inches away from her fingertips that is actively beeping with missed calls, texts, and email messages.
With all that evidence, it seems so hard to comprehend. We still don't have Amber's answers as to what happened to this gorgeous young co-ed. Joining me, an all-star panel to make sense of what we know right now, including Amber's mother, her sister, and her very best friend. I want to go straight out first to Amber's mother, Michelle Robinson. When did you learn that Amber had passed away?
I had just gotten home from work and bang, bang, bang on my door. And I'm like, who the hell would be knocking at my door, banging at my door like that? I said, who? Who? So I cracked the door open a little bit and they barged their way in. They said, we're investigating homicide, Amber Berbiglia. I said, homicide went over my head. I said, Amber, where is she? Where is she? One officer said, she's been shot. I'm like, what? And he grabbed my arm. Is she right? He said, no, she's deceased. And I want you to fall back. And he grabbed me and he said, no, I can't. And then he said, and asking me questions. I couldn't think straight. I needed to call my mother. My mom was on her way to Pennsylvania. I said, Mom, the officer took the phone. I couldn't dial. It was a nightmare since.
Also with Miss Robinson is Amber's sister, Amanda. Amanda, when did you learn that your sister, she's absolutely beautiful and so much ahead of her in life, when did you learn that she had been killed?
I was at work. I had gotten a few phone calls throughout the night. I was waitressing at the time, and it was a busy Friday night, and I didn't answer my phone. So at the end of my shift, I finally picked up my phone, and it was my uncle, and told me that she had been shot. And I didn't think it was possible, other than, like, maybe she was in the hospital. So I was just like, well, where is she? How is she doing? And he just said, I'm sorry, honey, she's gone.
What went through your mind when you heard the phrase, I'm sorry, honey, she's gone?
It was not comprehensible. I just kind of like fell to the ground. There were still customers in the restaurant and nobody knew what was going on. And my coworkers just kind of picked me up and helped me out the back door and, trying to figure out what was happening. And I just, blurted it out. My sister was shot. She's dead. And, they just helped me pull myself together and get home and get to my dad. And it's like my mother said, it's been a nightmare ever since.
When you first learned, Amanda, that Amber had been shot, in your mind, what did you think had happened?
I had no idea. There were so many different things that could have, were going through my mind. I just quick got home and, packed my stuff and headed down to South Carolina to try to figure out, to make sense of any bit of that.
Also joining us, in addition to Amber's mother and sister, her best friend, Karen Ritchie. Karen, describe for us when you learned Amber had been killed.
Someone at the scene recognized Amber and called my manager at overtime and told him. And they called me in the office and told me it was unbelievable. And they told that somebody shot her, and that's what they said in the beginning. And your head just spins because who in the world is going to do something like that? It took me a few minutes to get it together to be able to drive home, and it's just been unbelievable ever since, because it's just like one dead end after another.
Karen Ritchie is joining us, Amber Berbiglia and Michelle Robinson. Let me understand, Karen, when you were first told that Amber had been killed, what did you believe happened in your heart of hearts? When I was first told my fiance was dead, I thought there had been some horrible car crash, some accident. That's what I thought. Then I found out he had been shot. And I couldn't even imagine a scenario under which that would happen. Neither one of us owned a gun. Nobody had a gun in their home. So how was he shot? But I was in such shock, I didn't think it through. When you first heard this news that Amber had been shot, what did you think happened? And I have a reason for asking. Go ahead.
Well, like something random or possibly a robbery or something to that effect. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. She didn't hurt anybody. It didn't make any sense that anybody would hurt her. She was the most caring, giving person. She had such a spirit and an aura. I just couldn't wrap my head around that anybody would want to hurt her for any reason.
Joining us, in addition to Amber Berbiglia's family, Michelle Robinson, Amber Berbiglia, her sister and best friend Karen Ritchie, Barry Hutchinson Sr. now joining us, 26 years in law enforcement, veteran detective, now chief investigator with Barry and Associates. Barry Hutchinson, thank you for being with us. Well, immediately police rule out robbery because her purse, her pocketbook is still there. Her cell phone is still there. There's money in the purse, so it's not robbery. We also see that she's outside of the car, so it's not a random drive-by shooting. She's outside the car. What do you think?
I think it was somebody that she was familiar with. I think it was a crime of opportunity. My first instinct is telling me that it's probably somebody that had romantic interest in her, but they weren't reciprocated, and I think it was a crime of passion from that standpoint.
So when responders first get there, they believe that Amber has been shot, but then they realize she was beaten so badly she appeared to have been shot in the face. Also joining us, a renowned chief medical examiner out of Tarrant County, that's Fort Worth, and esteemed lecturer at the Burnett School of Medicine at TCU, Dr. Kendall Crowns. Dr. Crowns, thank you for being with us. Explain to me in medical terms what that means.
So sometimes gunshot wounds can be, or blunt force injuries can be confused with gunshot wounds because the natures of wounds on the head can look like a gunshot wound injury. You can get these kind of stellate tears or star-shaped tears that can look like entrance wounds from gunshots, but instead are from blunt force injuries, especially if they've used a weapon or a rock or a hammer. It can leave these type of stellate wounds or star-shaped wounds. The other thing is often with blunt force trauma, there can be so much deformation or damage to the head that it can look like a gunshot wound, which also causes a significant trauma to the head as well.
Less daylight means higher crime rates. We all know that. Stay safe, gain peace of mind with Sabre, the #1 pepper spray brand, offering safety tools to help you live confidently. Equip your daughter for college with Sabre's pepper spray and personal alarm. Your sister for nighttime exercise with an LED run pepper gel. And secure your own home with a door security bar at night. Trusted by over 5,000 police agencies and over 100 million people. Visit saberred.com/Nancy Grace. Use code Nancy to save.
A beautiful young woman found beaten to death, lying next to her running car under a freeway overpass. Who could do this?
Amber Berbiglia is originally from New York, but calls South Carolina home now. She is a college student at Horry Georgetown Technical College with designs on becoming a costume designer. Studying abroad in London for part of her education, she meets Jose Tolsar and comes back home in love. After 2 years of dating, Amber and Jose make plans to marry weeks after she graduates from college, and that time is fast approaching.
That casts some light on the theory a, quote, jilted lover or boyfriend killed her. If she had been involved in that relationship for 2 years and very happy, it's highly unlikely that there was another guy on the side. We don't have any information about that.
No, there's no information that there was anybody on the side. I don't think, she would have had anybody, but she had a lot of friends, and it could have been somebody that she had a friendship with that just really wanted more than that, and she just wouldn't reciprocate.
Now, thinking all of this through, let me figure out, can either of you three ladies, her mom, her sister, or best friend, enlighten me on her love interest, her relationship, her fiance? They were a few weeks away from getting married.
She was very happy with Jose. She was very excited to get married and start her future. She was moving to London, and I mean, she was just so happy. They were smitten. They were a perfect fairy tale love story.
To Michelle Robinson, this is Amber Berbiglia's mom. Michelle, what was she doing for a living until she moved back to London? Where was she working?
She was working at Australian Grill, which is a very high-class restaurant serving, and she was going to school at the same time. Here's the picture. Me and her mother, her grandmother, went and picked out wedding dresses just weeks before. I do not believe it was someone that had passion for her. I believe it was a stranger, because if they knew Amber, they would not kill her. She lit up her room. She was happy all the time. If someone had something against her, they would have told her that. I don't think it was someone she knew. That's my
Let's
belief.
analyze what Michelle Robinson is saying. Join me now, crimeonline.com investigative reporter Alexis Tereszczuk. Alexis, thank you for being with us tonight. I'm trying to analyze what I've just heard. Now, you and I, Alexis, have handled a lot of homicide cases together. And one thing I've always been puzzled with is that it seems sometimes like the very best, the sweetest people end up being homicide victims, and even at random victims. So while I understand what mom is saying, that's not always true, because a person is wonderful and loving and innocent and lights up a room. That does not protect them from predators. Another thing, Alexis Tereszczuk, any light you could shed on this. Many people, including the mom, Michelle Robinson, believe that this was stranger on stranger for a robbery. But think it through, and I'm going to go back to you on this, Barry Hutchinson Sr. If you want money, you want to rob somebody, is following a woman in a car in broad daylight, dragging her out of the car and beating her in the face, then you don't take the pocketbook with the money in it, that's just like the John Benet Ramsey case, all right, where somebody said when they decide a kidnapper breaks in at Christmas and leaves a ransom note for $118,000 and said, oh, hey, you know what? I've come this far, but never mind. I'm just going to kill her and leave her here. That doesn't make sense. So if you're going to commit a robbery, why don't you mug somebody in a dark alley? Why don't you grab somebody's pocketbook in the mall parking lot when their arms are full of bags, or the grocery lot, or the parking deck outside of Target? Why chase down a car, get the woman out of the car, beat her in the face, fracture her skull? It's a vicious beating, okay, to her face. That's full of all sorts of psychological implications. And then you don't take the pocketbook. You don't take the purse or the money. That doesn't make sense. Alexis, what facts can you shed on this?
Well, also, there was not a weapon found, as far as the police have said, at the crime scene. So we don't know if she was hit with the person's fist or if they had another weapon, but they did not take the money. So you think maybe something went wrong. Maybe she owed somebody money for some reason. They followed her. They said to get the money back, but they left the purse. And again, it is broad daylight. While this isn't a heavily trafficked area, as you can see from the photos, it is still a public location where she was just found. Literally, her car was running. So she was very surprised when this happened. And they left, they didn't take anything. So if she was, let's just say she owed somebody some money, she was going to meet them with the money. Something happened, she didn't give it to them. They didn't take the money. They didn't take anything. And they didn't take her cell phone either.
Alexis Tereszczuk, I specifically asked if you could shed light on the facts, not come up with a wild hypothesis. Are you actually saying you have any facts to support she owed anyone money, or you're just guessing?
I am just guessing, but I'm saying that if she did owe somebody money, they didn't take it when it was found in her wallet.
No facts support that. As a matter of fact, facts support the exact opposite. Listen.
Amber Berbiglia's mother, Michelle, says the murder simply happened to the wrong person, saying, quote, Amber was a social butterfly. She had friends from school. She had friends from work. She put herself through school. Her mother says she was looking through some of Amber's bills and papers and finds her daughter doesn't owe anything to anybody. All of her bills were up to date, and she paid off all of her student loans.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app, where you can get all of our content, where we, in our own way, seek justice.
The 23-year-old hit in the face twice with a blunt object, so hard that investigators believed she was shot.
What more do we know about the scene that can shed light on her murder? Listen.
Investigation into the murder of Amber Berbiglia is difficult from the first hours. There are no witnesses to describe hearing or seeing anything. There was no robbery, as her phone, keys, and wallet were left untouched. The keys are still in the ignition and the car is running, but the suspect doesn't use the car to get away from the scene.
It sounds to me like a crime of opportunity. Now, Alexis Tereszczuk, I just attacked you about your claim that this young girl, about to graduate college, heading to London to become a costume designer, a few weeks away from her wedding to the man of her dreams, they're moving together, that she owed somebody money. She's one of the few in the country, along with me, that paid off all her student loans. This woman did not owe money. What I was expecting you to describe, Alexis Tereszczuk, is video surveillance. What can you tell me about video surveillance of Amber just before her death?
So first, she's seen paying her cable bill. That is on video. The video has not been released by the police. After that, she goes to the gas station. That video has been released. She's wearing black pants, leopard print shirt. She has cute little glasses on. Then, so the police took the video. They went all up and down this highway, and they found video of her car. And in it, she's by herself. She's driving her car. She turns a corner, They lose sight of her for about half an hour. Half an hour later, her car comes back around. She is driving. There appears to be a passenger in the seat. From the video, what has been described is that this passenger appeared to be a dark person. It may have been a black man in the car with her. This is what was seen. And then we don't see them again. And mere minutes later, within an hour or so, she is murdered on the side of the road. But there is no evidence of this person at the crime scene that we have seen.
Okay, let me understand something, Alexis Tereszchuk. She goes off video cam. Okay, and what kind of video was it? Was it a store? Was it a red light? Do we know what kind of video cam it was?
We do not know what kind. I think it was they said they searched on the highway, so it might have been one of the interstate video cameras.
Yeah, okay. It sees her turn off the roadway onto a side street. She's alone. When she comes back onto the roadway from that side street, there is, we believe to be, a male in the car with her in the front seat, correct?
Correct. And you cannot.
Do we know what is... Go ahead.
He appears to be a black male from the video.
Amanda, what have you been told about the video?
Exactly what she just said, just that they have video of her on the street, stopping to pay her cable bill, and then she goes onto a side street and comes back, but I don't know, and that there was somebody in the car with her when she comes back onto the highway, but I don't know what street or the area. I'm not familiar with the area.
We understand that the cameras were those installed along the roadway, Alexis Tereszchuk. You're right about that. Michelle Robinson, Amber's mom, were you ever told what is down the street, or did you investigate what was down the street? Why she went there?
Yes, and I saw that video, and to me, it was a shadow. It was not a person. I went to the police station, and it did not appear to be a black person or anybody. It was just a shadow, maybe an arm, not even visible to be an arm. They're saying that it was a black person, maybe. To me, it looked like just a shadow. No clear indication of a person.
Is law enforcement telling you they believe it's a person?
Yes,
Okay. So they believe it's a person, you believe it's a shadow, correct?
yes.
And how quickly, after seeing what they believe is a person in the car with her, is she killed?
Within a half hour.
What do we know about defensive wounds? Listen.
The mother of Amber Berbiglia, Michelle Robinson, says her daughter was hit with something in the head twice, causing 2 skull fractures. She also says Amber did not go down without a fight. According to Robinson, the funeral home suggests putting on a long-sleeve dress for visitation to cover up the bruises and cuts on her arms. According to her mother, Amber Berbiglia put up a good fight.
To Dr. Kendall Crowns joining us out of Fort Worth, Texas. Dr. Crowns, I want to understand something. We earlier heard that we've learned she had a skull fracture, 2 in fact. Could a skull fracture result from a blow from a fist, or would it have to be a blunt object?
So your skull can fracture from a punch, depending on how much force is put behind the punch, where you're hit in your face. The bones of the skull in these areas are easily fractured, but from a punch, you can break the nose, you can break the orbital rims. But the type of injuries that are being described to me sounds more like a heavy blunt object, like a pipe or a hammer, because you're not going to see the extensive injuries that look like a gunshot wound unless it's something that you can put a lot of force behind, causing major fractures of the skull.
This is where I'm going, Dr. Kendall Crowns, and I want to follow up with you about how many veins, how venous the face is that would produce a lot of bleeding to resemble a gunshot wound. But we're talking about potential fractures. We're talking about whether a weapon was used. She was off camera, Dr. Kendall Crowns, for about 30 minutes. The highway cam, what we've learned was the highway cam, sees her going down the highway, the roadway. She turns off into the side street, Dr. Kendall Crowns. She's not seen for 30 minutes. When she comes back on camera, Dr. Crowns, according to law enforcement, there is a male sitting in her front seat. Within an hour, she's dead. I'm trying to figure out, was a weapon used? And if so, what weapon? It seems to me that's the guy we need to be looking for. Now, Dr. Kendall Crowns, 2 fractures to the skull. If the fractures were, can a skull fracture be to the front of the face, or does it have to be, say, from the eyebrows back? What, with the nose, the mouth, the cheeks, would that be the skull? Is that considered the skull?
So yeah, again, the skull can be any portion of this, could be a skull fracture. So facial skull here, nose, cheek, side of head, where your ear would be, can also be considered a skull fracture. So any of that can be considered a skull fracture in a description.
Okay. Dr. Kendall Crowns, it looked like a gunshot wound. It was that bad. Would there be more bleeding if the attack was to the venous area in the mouth and the nose and the eyes? They bleed so profusely.
So your head actually has a lot of vascularity to it. Your nose, your face, even your scalp has a tremendous amount of vasculature. So anytime there's injuries to the facial or head area, there is always going to be a lot of bleeding. It doesn't matter what exactly the area is. It just, if it's part of the head, it'll bleed quite profusely.
Hey Mom, I just wanted to call and tell you I love you. Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. I love you. Good night. A mother cherishes the last voicemail from her daughter.
Alexis Tereszchuk, if LE, law enforcement, is correct, that could very well be her killer caught on video. So I'm trying to learn more about that. Alexis, was the car fully processed for DNA and fingerprints?
The police have said that they've investigated all of it. They have never released a suspect's name. They've never released any information saying they're looking for a suspect. And even so, they could run this through, if there was DNA anywhere found, they could run it through one of the genealogy sites and maybe get a match on somebody else, but they have never released any information about that.
Back to Dr. Kendall Crowns. I'm still on the skull fracture, and the reason I'm asking Dr. Crowns is I'm trying to determine if you or someone like you, another medical examiner, would be able to tell if she was beaten with, let's just say, was she pistol whipped? Was she attacked with a pipe? If we could figure out from her injuries, what was the murder weapon? What was the type of murder weapon? A hammer, for peace sake, like Dr. Teresa Sievert. You can look at the wound sometimes and you can determine what type of weapon was used. Isn't that true?
That's correct. So with blunt force injuries, there can be patterns that are left by the weapon. Pipes can leave like what we call tram track type bruising, where you see bruising on either side of the wound. Hammers actually leave kind of circular or kind of almost Mercedes-Benz type symbol lesions as well that can be mistaken for gunshot wounds. It just depends what the object is, but it can leave pattern injuries. But a fist doesn't usually, but other objects can. So you can get kind of an impression of it based on what the wounds look like.
If this was not to the nose or the facial area and it left skull fractures, this was not done with a fist. That tells me the person that got in her car, the man in her car, had some sort of a weapon. Was it a pipe? Was it a hammer? Was it a gun used to pistol whip her? I don't know, but I do believe Barry Hutchinson Sr. joining me, Private Eye Chief Investigator for Barry and Associates Investigative Services in Kansas and Missouri. Barry, we say that, statistics teach us you look first at those closest to her, and that would be the fiance. It's not the fiance. I've already investigated it myself. He's ruled out. He has a rock solid alibi. He was in Europe at the time. No question. It's not him. But I'm very interested in your theory about a romantic interest. She worked, as her mom just told us, at a very high-end restaurant. Who was watching her? Who was sitting at the bar watching her every move? Who could have been obsessed with her? Because, Barry, I'm very torn right now. Did she give some random guy a ride and he attacked her? Because nobody can identify who this person is. Or is it someone that had been watching her and she agreed to give him a ride? The fact that we know it's not a robbery, we know it's not a sex assault, we know that it's in broad daylight. So who would have been so bold to attack this beautiful young co-ed just a couple of weeks away from her wedding? I really want to hear your thoughts, Barry.
The police have the ability, they know a timeline of her disappearing for 30 minutes or so. There are elements that they can use to investigate too, like her vehicle. I don't know if her vehicle was equipped with OnStar. I don't know if she had her cell phone with her. I'm assuming she did. I think in the earlier conversation you said that she had her cell phone
Yes,
with
she
her.
did.
That phone can also be pinged, and they could find out where she was in that immediate area that she went missing for those 30 minutes. And then at that point, what I would do is just good old-fashioned police work. I would canvass that area door to door, find out anybody and everybody in that area that has a criminal record, anybody that could match, theoretically the type of crime that was committed if they have a history of that. Look for people that just got out of the penitentiary. Look for people that have that kind of a vicious background or violent background, and see if I could come up with a list of viable subjects that could be possible suspects. It just does not make sense to me that a young lady like this would get out of her vehicle and have a confrontation with somebody in a remote area where she's not safe and not know that person. It just does not add up to me at all. I think that, again, I'm going to stick with my idea that it's somebody that she's familiar with. And I think that it's somebody that probably had an interest in her that she just did not reciprocate because she was very happy with who she was with.
At age 23, Amber Berbiglia doesn't live at home, but talks to her mother daily. When one of her calls to her mother isn't answered, Amber leaves a message for her mother. Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. I love you. Good night.
Oh, my stars. Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. I love you. Good night. A message she leaves her mom. And joining me right now is Amber's mother, Michelle Robinson. Miss Robinson, I almost hated to say those words back because I know it's like a knife to your heart to hear that rhyme, that message she left to you, that little poem. But I want to ask you about the facts. We keep saying she went to go pay a cable bill, but there was something very probative about her paying the cable bill. Have you been informed about the video from inside the Time Warner Cable office where she paid her bill, that while she's in there, there is a man standing behind her, staring at her, and it's been described as in an aggressive manner. But it's my understanding, Ms. Robinson, that the guy, for all I know, he's angry about having to wait in line, has been investigated thoroughly and he has been cleared. Correct?
That's what I was told.
To Karen Ritchie joining us, Amber's best friend, and to her sister, Amber Berbiglia. Amanda, was there anything else happening in her life that she seemed disturbed about or worried about that you know of?
No, not at all. Just a couple weeks before she was killed, she came to visit me for Easter. I had some things I had to take care of. So she had come to take care of my daughters while I was away. And then when I came home, we spent Easter Sunday together before she went back home. And, she didn't mention at all anything.
Nothing at all. Would she have told you if she was worried about someone or something?
Yeah, we were pretty close. She used to call me all the time, but she would have made me aware if there was something bothering her.
Alexis Tereszchuk, crimeonline.com. Where does the case stand right now?
The case is still open. There have been no suspects released to the public. There has been nobody arrested for it. Nothing. The police have not given any leads as to what anybody should look for. They have not said anything. They've never identified publicly a murder weapon at all. So this is a case that is still very open, and still all of the evidence has not been released, and they're still looking for the murderers or murderer.
To ease their broken hearts, Amber's family erected a memorial, photos, mementos, flowers, underneath the freeway overpass where she lost her life. They've also set up a website with information about her murder, justiceforamber.org. Repeat, justiceforamber.org. If you know, or even think you know, anything about the murder of this beautiful young co-ed, please call toll-free 888-CRIME-SC, 888-274-6372, 888-274-6372. There is a $6,000 reward for information leading to the discovery of the facts behind the murder of Amber Berbiglia. We stop now to remember an American hero, Corporal Brandon Schreiber, Newton County Sheriff's, Indiana, just 32, shot and killed in the line of duty, leaving behind a grieving wife, Caitlin, and children, Seth and Paisley. American hero, Corporal Brandon Schreiber. Thank you to all of our guests joining us tonight. Nancy Grace signing off. I'll see you tomorrow night, 6 and 9 o'clock sharp Eastern. And until then, good night, friend. Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app, where you can get all of our content, where we, in our own way, seek justice.